Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. We are in the midst of the corona crisis. Everything is on lockdown. Bars are now closed. Restaurants are closed except for takeout and delivery. San Francisco announced that they are enforcing a mandatory quarantine unless it's absolutely necessary. So shit's hitting the fan. And a lot of my clients are asking me, what does this mean for home buying? What does this mean for interest rates? What should we do and what should we expect? So in this video, we're going to talk about the coronavirus and how that's going to affect you buying a home or refinancing your current mortgage. So if you think that sounds interesting, keep watching. All right, guys. So the first thing I want to talk about in this video is obviously the coronavirus is spreading right now. And if you're a home buyer and wondering what you should do, there's a few things that I want to share with you. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is interest rates. Okay, so President Trump announced that they're cutting interest rates. So what does that mean exactly? A lot of people assume that that means mortgage interest rates are going to be lower. So I'm getting calls saying, oh, Trump cut rates. Can I get a lower rate? So I want to use an article that I read 2 days ago on Mortgage News Daily by Matthew Graham. He's been writing for Mortgage News Daily for 13 years, and he's basically an expert in mortgage markets, interest rates, and things like that. So he wrote an article titled What the Fed's Emergency Rate Cut Means for Mortgage Rates. Okay, so the first thing I want to mention here is he points out that I can't count the number of articles I've written or the variety of ways I've reported mortgage rates moving in the opposite direction as the Fed rate cut / hike, or simply put, or despite a Fed cut. So basically what he's saying is sometimes when the Fed cuts rates, interest rates for mortgages actually will go higher. Okay, so it's not directly correlated. So that's the first thing you need to know is when Trump comes out and says we've cut interest rates, doesn't necessarily mean immediately that your mortgage rates will be lower. Down the line in the coming weeks and months, that might be the case, but not right now. So actually rates are higher now than they were a week or 2 weeks ago when we hit those all-time lows. So here's one of the reasons why that happened. So I want to point to this paragraph here in this article. One of the biggest reasons for the mortgage versus treasury disconnect, because the treasury rate is really low right now, rates are high. So why there's a disconnect is because there's a massive supply glut of new mortgage debt caused by rampant refinance demand recently. Okay, so there's been so many people refinancing that there's a ton of new mortgage debt. So what does this mean? So this flood of mortgages needs to be sold to investors in order for mortgage lenders to keep lending. Okay, so mortgage lenders, believe it or not, they are not actually keeping the loans that they originate. They sell it to investors. Okay, so there's been so many mortgages that have accumulated and been sold to investors that there's not many investors left that want to invest in mortgages at this time. So like any marketplaces with too many sellers and not enough buyers, prices rapidly fell, and falling prices on mortgages equate to higher rates for consumers. That is part of the reason why interest rates are actually higher now. It's because that's part of the issue is there's so many people who refinance that they haven't sold these loans to investors so that they can generate more loans, because these banks like Quicken, United Wholesale Mortgage, whatever, they don't want to keep those loans. They want to sell them to investors. Okay, so I just want to give you another example. So I have a scenario here pulled up. It is basically it's a purchase. Someone wants to buy a house, 700 FICO in 91335 area code, which is LA County, single family, 520,000 loan amount, which is high balance in that area, and 20% down, 700 FICO score. So a few weeks ago, this person could have got an interest rate somewhere in the 3s. Let's see what it is today. So here we go. All right, so guys, look at this. There is not even a par interest rate, which means no cost. Okay, so if you want a 4.75, it's going to cost you 0.7% of your loan. This loan is 520. So it's going to cost $3,700. If you want a 4.5, it's going to cost $7,000 to get a 4.5% interest rate. It does this weird thing where they want you to take the 4% interest rate. But anyway, if you want a 4% interest rate or 3.99, it's going to cost you $7,000 to get that rate. Whereas a couple weeks ago, it wouldn't cost you anything and you would get a rate in the threes. So let's change this loan amount to $500,000. So let's go into the conforming loan amount. So that was high balance. This is conforming. So you're buying a house, 20% down, conventional conforming loan, 4.75 again. Look, 4% costs you 1% in fees. So it's an extra cost. Not the worst thing in the world. If you really need to buy a house, you might have to suck it up. You could still get a 3.99. You have to pay 1% extra in fees. Okay, so but people were very used to these low rates for such a long time that sounds crazy and they're not going to want to do it. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to show you guys. That's what's happening with interest rates. They're high right now, higher than what we've been used to. Not crazy high, not 1980s high or 90s or even 2000s, but higher than what we are used to. So next thing we should talk about is home prices. So what does that mean for home prices? Well, my personal clients that are looking to buy a house, they're a little scared right now. They're going to sit on the sidelines. They're going to wait a month or two and see what develops and what happens. Okay, depending on what happens with interest rates in the market and this whole virus, if everything goes away, I think things will just go back to normal. Okay, so if we give it a couple months, let this thing pass, let this hysteria, craziness go away, things will go back to normal. Okay, so as far as home prices, not the best time to sell your home at this time. So that's my opinion. However, there was a house that my client was interested in. I called the agents and they had 5 offers. So there are people still out there who are putting in offers. We have yet to see if they will actually go through with the house and if they'll buy the house. So that's another story. But people are still putting in offers. So, whatever that means. So home prices right now, probably going to stay stagnant, might go down a little bit over the next 2 months, but I predict things will just pick back up where they left off after this is all over and behind us. So one last thing I want to show you guys is we want to look at the end of this article from Matthew Graham. So what's the guidance that he's giving right now? What should you be doing during this time? Because rates are going up, they're going down, they're fluctuating. So here's what he suggests. If you haven't done so already, make sure to talk to your originator. That would be me. Make sure your originator has what he needs in order to lock your loan when the time is right. Make a game plan. Talk about where rates are now and what you're looking to lock at. Okay? So make sure they have what they need in order to lock. So he's also saying, I've never felt it wise to give blanket advice to people in different scenarios. That's also a very good point. A lot of people are in a lot of different scenarios. So that's why it's good to talk to a loan originator, mortgage loan officer, whatever you call us, and talk about your specific scenario. Okay, so here is the encouraging news in this article. So where rates go from here will depend on where the bond market goes. To be sure, there's a good chance that yields will stay extremely low and move lower due to what many see as a fairly large and inevitable recession. If that increasingly looks to be the case, mortgage rates will gradually return lower. But, and there is an important but, mortgage rates aren't dropping by 0.5% today, and they're not anywhere close to zero. They were a lot closer to 4% on Friday. So what he's saying here is that they will return to low rates gradually. So we'll go back to the levels we were at, I believe, but it will be gradual. It'll take a few weeks, maybe a couple of months, but it will happen. That's my guess. So like he said here at the end of this article, talk to your loan officer. Have a game plan. Let them know what your target interest rate is that you're looking to lock at. Okay, what interest rate do you want to lock? What's your sweet spot? And get them whatever they need so that they can be ready when it comes time to lock. Okay, so The last thing I want to leave with you guys, as far as the home prices and home buying or just investing in general, if you've invested in the stock market, cryptocurrency, gold, real estate, whatever the case may be, I just want to remind you guys of Warren Buffett's quote, where he says, "Be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful." So these are fearful times. I would recommend, obviously, I'm not a financial expert. This is not financial advice, disclaimer, but prices are low right now on stocks, the S&P, gold, cryptocurrency, real estate even might take a hit, right? If everyone's scared to buy a house, now might be the time to jump in, get that house at a slightly higher interest rate, and then refinance in 6 months to when the rates go back down, right? If everyone's scared to put in an offer and scared to buy a house, it might be the opportunity you've been looking for to get a great house at a great deal. So I'll leave you guys with that. Hope you guys are all well. Hope you guys stay safe, and I will see you guys again next week.